You're listening to the Careers BU podcast, a podcast aimed at Bournemouth University students and graduates. Each episode, we talk to employers, alumni and professionals all about their career journey, what employers are looking for, and help you explore the opportunities that are available to you. Hello and welcome to this episode. I'm Amanda Fripp, Careers Consultant at Bournemouth University. In this episode, I chat to Micah Douglas, a brand manager at OceanSaver, which is a plastic-free plant-based range of cleaning products. Micah is a Bournemouth University alumnus who studied event management. In today's episode, he chats about his journey into a marketing role while pursuing his passion to work for a purpose-driven company. He also provides some valuable tips for students and grads looking to get into a marketing position. Hi, Micah. Nice to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for coming on.
Pleasure. Hey, Amanda. Nice to meet you.
Can you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit about kind of what you studied at BU and your current role, please?
Yeah, sure. So, again, I'm Micah. I've been kind of a graduate now for probably about 8 years. And when I was at Bournemouth Uni, I studied events management. So, I was sort of coming off the back of really enjoying live music, still do to this day, festival experiences, like the night economy and night events, and really wanted to find a way to get into that. So, yeah, came to BU to study that. And yeah, it's kind of been a branching path, but now I've been in, I guess, a marketing professional role now for a fair few years, and currently I'm at a brand called OceanSaver as their brand manager. So, yeah, look, not strictly linked to events, but is obviously kind of a part of the spectrum of cool brand marketing stuff you get to do when you're in a retail brand like us. So yeah.
Cool, thank you. And yeah, it tends to all link to like marketing, events, comms. They kind of all interlink in many ways, don't they? Before we go on about your role, just if anyone doesn't know what OceanSaver is, what does OceanSaver do?
Awesome. So yeah, we're OceanSaver. We're very much kind of the cleaning brand on a mission to save ocean life from plastic pollution and harmful chemicals in an industry producing millions and millions of tons of single-use virgin plastic, particularly in cleaning, which is one of the more destructive categories, I would say, in retail, and very kind of plastic driven. So in 2018, there was this kind of stance taken that there shouldn't be this much plastic being produced in cleaning. Why is it happening? And actually, why is all of it harmful to aquatic life? So I'm not sure if you know, but if you go down to the supermarket and you turn around a cleaning product, just pick any of the big ones that you see on the shelf, you'll see that there's a small claim that this may be harmful to aquatic life. And at the time, we thought this was crazy. Like, how can something as functional and as simple as cleaning be creating the disastrous and effects for ocean life? So this brand was kind of born out of that. A brand that creates cleaning spray refills. So the whole refill category, and why that's important to do in terms of reducing your plastic waste, but also trying to bring people along that journey, the cleaning journey, and making it as ocean friendly as possible. So we also do dishwasher tablets, and we do laundry products as well. So laundry capsules, which are just like liquid pods that everybody uses, but ours are plastic free and ocean friendly. And then also laundry sheets, which is this more like innovative new product where it's just a tiny little sheet and you throw it in the drum, and then you can clean and feel really good about it. So yeah, we're very much kind of laser focused on creating as much impact as possible for the ocean space. 1% of all our products go to the Blue Marine Foundation, who are a really big ocean charity, particularly down at the Solent, which is not a million miles away from Dorset, and just trying to work with our charity partner to improve different aspects of the natural biodiversity of the Solent and reintroduce a lot of it as well, because tons of it's been lost because of recreational boating, commercial fishing, and yeah, just kind of like the human influence on the bay. So yeah, every time you buy OceanSaver, you're directly supporting ocean impact, which is really the kind of core and the heart and soul of the brand.
Brilliant. So it's a brand on a mission, isn't it? And those, I've tried the little the pods that you put into like sprays for cleaning sprays. They're cool. Okay, excellent. So can you tell me a bit more? So you're a brand manager with OceanSaver.
Yeah.
So what does a brand manager do? What are the key responsibilities in your role?
Yeah, you'd probably have to. I think everybody would have a slightly different answer to that. It really depends what the brand's kind of calling for at the time. But look, I think at its fundamental, being a brand manager is all about being like a true representation of the, I guess, the direction and the values of the brand. So I think we're often like the maybe not the face of the brand, but we carry that message in lots of different ways. So, in terms of my role, I'm very much kind of in control of lots of our front facing channels, whether that's in the real life and whether it's online. So, for example, we want to build a community around our brand and we want to really kind of, tribe build and be that cleaning brand for people who are interested in social impact, interested in ethical products, interested in protecting the ocean fundamentally. Maybe you're based down by the coast or and you're super connected to nature, you see it every day, and potentially also see the negative aspects of what we're doing to the ocean, but also the brilliance, the inspiration, the ocean life, and all the stuff that we should be super, super excited about. But then also, if you're in a city and you feel like you need that reconnection and you want to try and integrate ocean friendly and ocean positive things into your life, here, it's my role to present you the opportunity to do that. And here's a range of products that you can use during your everyday, which is going to just kind of shift your brain a bit closer towards nature. But also, here's a world that you can get involved with Blue Marine and our charity partnership, volunteering opportunities, get involved in campaigns like World Ocean Day, and more recently when we had our TV advert out. Here's a great piece of creative that you can get excited by and share out with your friends and create more impact. So really in a kind of real life experience, I'll show up at some different events, I'll do some speaking engagements, I'll network hard, I guess, and just tell people about what we're up to and see if people are excited about it. But then also online through our comms, our social channels, finding different ways to turn heads and get people's thumb stopping. And again, just like creating more ocean savers is really what I'm trying to do. So yeah, being a brand manager is about positively representing the company that you're from and doing it in an authentic way where hopefully where you work is matching your values and feels like relevant to your own identity and your own kind of personal ambitions and missions. So yeah, where there's a lot of on brand managers, I would probably say, but I think the benefit of brand is that you really experience all the awesome kind of stuff firsthand. You're hearing from people first, you're seeing the reception online, and you're really like feeling it and living and breathing it. So there's also lots of core fundamentals you've got to get your head around, but I think from my perspective, it's definitely like the softer stuff, the feeling and the gut and the fun you get to have.
So in terms of the skills to be a brand manager, so are you like creating content as well? Do you have to be quite creative to think of different ideas and strategies? Like, do you do that? Like, what other kind of skills are important to be a brand manager?
Yeah, so again, I think it really depends on the stage of the brand. So I've always worked in startups, really small companies, like 10 and under people. And if it grows, it's going to only ever be like 20. So in brands this size, there's an expectation for you to have kind of like your creative competencies. So maybe you're creating content. So, I use Adobe Suite and, I'm physically making content, I'm filming, I'm taking pictures, I'm editing videos, I'm color correcting banners for websites. There's that kind of creative competencies, a lot that you can develop, I think, at university when you've got the time to like become like the master of these programs. And when you enter like the professional space, you already feel like pretty competent in what you're doing. And I think the brilliance around creative is that it is obviously subjective, but also when you physically create things like content and creative, everyone's always wowed because no one really understands how to do it. So the creative competencies are a big part of being a brand manager. But then also I think there's this other side of brand management, which is like partnerships with other brands, trying to leverage their platforms. Maybe you've got a promotion on, or maybe you've got a really cool campaign and you want to kind of be personable and kind of create mutual benefits between you and those other brands. And that's quite a different skill to the creative competency. It's like positive negotiation. It's like a bit of leadership, planning, project work, because you might be streamlining a partnership for a big day like World Ocean Day. it might be starting 3 or 4 months beforehand. You've got a social competition, you've got an email promo, you've got an in-person event, and the skills that go into that are very communications based. So it's trying to mold yourself in a way that you're able to confidently build partnerships with different people and different brands,
Mm.
flex your creative competencies over here to make those things happen. And yeah, I'd say those two facets of partnerships, communication skills, but then also creative competencies is like kind of like the core fundamentals of my role. But most brand managers will tell you, they're going to be either at an event or they're going to be doing a product shoot at home. That tends to be a bit of a split.
Okay, cool. So since leaving BU then, tell me about your career journey. Kind of what jobs have you done since leaving BU?
Yeah, so it's squiggly, as it always is. So, you've always got your North Star, I guess, in the sense of, I want to be this kind of person. And, these are the kind of jobs that feel really cool. And like, I'm passionate to hopefully get there at some stage. But the way that you get there is just like totally up and down and mad. And that's exciting because I think if everything was predictable, we wouldn't feel that motivated to do it and to, look for new roles. But when I first left BU, that initial step was fairly straightforward for me. I'd done a placement year as part of my course with an ambient brand, food brand down in Bournemouth. So that was pretty ideal. And then when I left, I just went straight back to that brand. So I was quite lucky. I guess that year I had in placement really demonstrated that I could then kind of kickstart my career back there. And that took out a lot of those anxieties of what's going to be my first step, where am I going to be geographically, what kind of industry do I want to get involved with, because to at least from my perspective, it's very very wide. And if you're fairly ambitious, you want to kind of like land the best thing straight away, and it's not always possible, but at least from my perspective, it's like, okay, I know I'm going back there. So I left BU, I went to work at this company for a year, and it was really brilliant. We did mostly, well, I was doing mostly events at the time, and then some like kind of traditional marketing, I guess. So, independent stores, visiting independent stores, giving them pause, popping up at events to talk to the community, whether it was like a beach marathon, a cold swim, a motorcycling event. Because we were an ambient food company, we wanted to lean on convenience and then show that whenever whatever situation you're in, whether you're outdoorsy, whether you're indoors, whether you're a gamer, whether you're a swimmer, here's something you can eat and enjoy at the time. So it required us to jump up everywhere and do everything. And it was a great like first start, super scrappy, very small brand,
Mm.
not a lot of cash, so you had to think quite strategically and smart and beg borrow a lot. But towards the end of that year, started to feel a bit itchy. I kind of wanted to step up my own, I guess, role and find something that was a bit bigger, but then also go to a different part of the UK and get that to London. I mean, that was really key for me. I realized that at least in my industry of like at the time food and drink, London was like the hub. That's where all the best brands were. You go to Sainsbury's or Asda or Tesco, you go up and down the snack aisle or the drinks aisle. Most of those brands were in London, so I knew I wanted to come back and just be around that. Where, at least at the time in Bournemouth, we were one of the kind of standout food brands, and the space was just a little bit smaller. Some industries are bigger down by the coast, but at the time, food F&B wasn't. So stupidly, to be honest, kind of prematurely left that role to hunt down the next thing in London and spent 3 or 4 months probably just trying to find what made sense for me. I didn't mention this, but that the ethical kind of eco sector and sustainability is sort of where my heart is, and I just left one too early, and then I struggled to find the next one. So yeah, kind of spent a few months interviewing at some different places, thinking, that this doesn't feel quite right in my gut, but I've also got to like finance, my living, and I went back home to live with my parents, and that didn't really fit well with me because I've been living independently for years at uni. And yeah, it just took a lot of time. Again, I think some of the the networking and volunteering work I put in at BU helped me to just have a bit of a network I could tap into. There were a few people who I could ask for advice, or could you like, connect me with this person? And LinkedIn was like a really helpful tool to use at the time as well. I kind of
Hmm.
quite purposely grew my LinkedIn when I was in that first role for that 1 year. And yeah, eventually found Tony's Chocolonely, which is where I went to work afterwards. So yeah, I was quite lucky to land that role, and it was a bit of a struggle, as it sometimes tends to be when you're out of uni. But I think it's interesting that my first job, pretty straightforward, just kind of walked in. But then the one after, which almost felt more like my entry level role, was definitely quite scrappy, and I was being very choiceful, so that slowed the process. But yeah, having a bit of a network that really helped me land Tony's eventually. So yeah, it's a difficult time, but yeah, I think it's you learn a lot.
What role did you get at Tony's?
Yes, good question. Tony's role was quite unique, but basically it was a marketing role, a mostly digital marketing role, social media, community management on those platforms and content creation. But then also, I mean, when I joined, I was employee number six, so we were like super small. And in this stage of organization, you wear lots of hats, right? So if I wasn't doing social media, I was doing something else, going to visit some stores, or kicking off a Tesco campaign, working closely with the sales team, or organizing some of our quarterlies and our social functions, and trying to get the office looking good, and doing some brand partnerships and product swaps, and just being that person who, I guess, straddled that line of, if this team needs help, I can step in. If this team needs a hand, I can step in. But I'm also going to be like, developing out content for the brand and doing brand building. So it's basically your classic marketing entry role where, oh, this person can do loads of things. So like, let's get them to do lots of stuff. Really, really fun. Like, very, very lucky to have found that.
That's cool. And Tony's Chocolonely, I mean, I, again, quite a
Oh,
fan
good.
of that chocolate. So, which actually I think was the actual original time when I saw you on, I spotted you on LinkedIn, was because actually it was when you were working at Tony's Chocolonely, which caught my attention before. And then I was like, oh, now you're working at OceanSaver. So Tony's Chocolonely, like an ethical, fair trade chocolate, isn't it?
Mm.
So was that part of the reason you applied for that role then? Because you mentioned that you have an interest in sustainability, eco-friendly products. So tell me about kind of, is that quite important to you, working for brands that are like social impact brands?
Yeah, I was never destined to work for the big baddies, I don't think, to be honest. It was very obvious from even before going to uni that I was on that like side of the podium, like probably not willing to compromise and work for more money for a bigger organization doing bad in the world. I was like, I knew I wanted to work for purposeful brands. And I think luckily I was kind of born where I was born, and I left uni when I left uni, because now, like, that echo chamber of sustainability and green economy, and like the blue space that I'm in now with OceanSaver, just grown so much. There's so much momentum. There's so many petitions. There's so many brands just out in retail, and Blue Planet and Planet Earth on TV, and just the influence that someone like Attenborough has. I think I was just quite lucky to arrive at that point. There's been like so many struggle years and still lots of work to be done. But as we get closer to 2030, and the SDGs and the climate goals, it feels like everything ramps up. So I knew before and during uni that purposeful brands is where I wanted to be, and waking up every morning knowing that I'm doing a piece of good in my job. So that's also wicked, because we spend most of our lives working. So if I can do a lot of good at work, and then everything else out of work is just a bit of a top up, then I can feel, yeah, just quite energized and motivated. It's not a kind of trying to appear as like holier than thou, and it's a negative that you're not in this space. But for me, I really wanted to kind of do good and give back. So like, this is where I'm just happy and I'm comfortable. And with Tony's, when I found out about the role, I kind of didn't know much about them, to be honest. I'd been to the Netherlands, I'd tried the chocolate, I thought it tasted amazing. That was the end of it. And then when the role was presented to me through a friend, again with the networking, like, I was just lucky to know this person, Sam, who had known the head of commercial at Tony's, and just heard they were looking for a marketing person. I was like, wow, yeah, this this chocolate brand is like amazing, super unique, like on a mission to change the chocolate industry, remove illegal child labor and modern slavery from cocoa and cocoa production. I thought that's incredible. Like when you think with Tony's sourcing its cocoa from Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, it's West Africa. I'm mixed. I'm half African, and I just thought this is like perfect alignment. Like really wanted the role, and then worked very hard to get it. 4 rounds of interviews, presentations. Yeah, quite a lot for an entry level, I would argue. Usually it's not that many rounds. And for OceanSaver, I did another 4. So, but now obviously more senior. So, yeah, it was just interesting just how much work went into that. But I guess my one massive learning from the Tony's rounds and getting that role was personality and soft competencies probably means as much as like your hard skills. You know, I was super green. I'd done a year in industry. I didn't know a lot, and the brand that I'd come from wasn't like a mature brand. So I hadn't had lots of experience in that retail space. I didn't have lots of experience even in creative and being in the platforms and the programs and creating digital assets, physical assets. You know, I had what I had, but actually a brand like Tony's and a lot of smaller sustainability brands are looking for someone they want to work with for 8 hours a day, and someone that just has a bit of gusto and a bit of spirit and a bit of energy. So that was a massive takeout from then. I went in wanting to talk about what I'd done, but they actually wanted to talk more about me and like what I'm motivated by, and like, you know, what do you do out of like your work time, and what's your favorite band? And I was just like, I just want to talk about everything I've done. Can we talk about, you know, the events that I've ran? And so it was very kind of, yeah, flipped, reversed my expectations. And I find that in small brands, and especially in sustainability, we're looking for brilliant people first, and then hopefully from there we can kind of like develop and nurture you and put you in positions where you can grow your kind of hard skills. Because let's be realistic, when you leave uni, you just don't have 10 years corporate experience, or you've probably never done a brand management training course. You know, you've just volunteered hopefully, and have done like enough of that to then kind of land the next role. So yeah, it's a personal thing, sustainability, and something that I live by, but also as an industry, it was easier, I think, for me to enter it as someone who's just, you know, into it, you know.
Brilliant. Okay. You mentioned when you were at uni, did you get involved in a lot at uni to do with like whether that's events, sustainability? What else kind of aside from your degree did you do at uni that you feel kind of benefited you when you were looking for roles?
Honestly, just as much as possible, to be honest. So I think what was quite good about the events management course was we're talking about something that happens all the time. So whether it was our lecturers, whether it was our peers, you know, everybody had something they had going on, something to volunteer to, something to show up to, an evening in town, a pub event, a marathon down at the beach. There was always opportunities to sign up to stuff. And it's not that that's closed off from anyone else. I just think doing an events management course, we were at the first point of call for those kinds of things. You know, if somebody was running a marathon down on the promenade, and they needed 15, I guess, kids to come and help, you know, run the day, they would come and speak to us directly. So I'd be like, yep, want to do that, sign on. And you know, get an experience from doing volunteering as a result of just being on an event management course. But just having an eye on what was going on, I think really helped. And then it was something I could talk about when I, you know, eventually returned back to that ambient food company. And when I was looking for my placement as well, I was like, oh, you know, I've volunteered at this thing. I've helped support and run this event that happened this evening, alongside just kind of studying and the practice of events. I think it's really important for me to volunteer. So yeah, that was a massive thing, to be honest. But then also I think developing out communication skills, leadership, again, like personability and empathy, and you know, these are things that you can develop out in lots of different ways, whether you're just like socializing, like where are you socializing, who are you with, how diverse is that group of people, how many different perspectives are you introducing into your own life, what kinds of books are you reading, what kinds of TV are you kind of engaged with. We're not perfect, we're not robots, but I think introducing a lot of these different things and meeting lots of different people, which is the best thing about uni, to be totally honest, is the amount of different types of people you meet, especially BU, which is very international, gives you a really good lens on the work environment, I feel. where you're just going to be, especially in marketing and in brand management, you're just going to be in front of a lot of people, probably quite a lot, and you have to just work that space and be empathetic to different styles of communication, and what's going to make this person get super excited about what you're doing is not going to make this person super excited about what you're doing. So I wanted to use uni as an opportunity to do that as well, and just be very open-minded about everything and the things I was doing. And look, it's uni, you party, you have a good time, you make lots of mates, but also if you can volunteer and you can find different opportunities to, perspective build, society events is a really good one for that. Yeah, I think you mature quite quickly and become a bit more, well, employable, I guess, but also just like a good colleague. So yeah, tried to do, I'd say, like year one and year two, did way more of that than my final year, which was like dissertation focused, like sitting down with the book. So
Yeah.
as much as you can do in year one and two, I would like highly encourage, I think.
I think that's really good advice, and it kind of reiterates what we tell students a lot. Do more. Don't just do your degree. Do your degree, but do some volunteering,
Good.
or develop those skills. And I guess because you did a placement as well, I guess doing your placement put you in a really great position.
Mm.
Well, it was actually the same place you got your first job, wasn't it? You went back to your that employment.
Yeah, exactly. And that was, I mean, how awesome, right? If you're one of the biggest kind of anxieties of leaving uni is what next, but by just doing that placement and loving it and leaving enough of a legacy and impression, was able to come straight back. So yeah, I think if there was if there was ever a kind of a reason to do a sandwich course, it's almost that. And this is not the story for everybody, and not everybody enjoys their placement, but I think if you, in terms of like stepping out of uni, having that security at the back of your head was really helpful. So, but then even landing that placement, there was no way I would have got that had I not done all the volunteering, and I had not had like the communication kind of basis. There's no way I would have got it. So there's too many students who are similar like me, or maybe not, who could have gone for that role. So
So, in terms of kind of advice to students, maybe like even students who want to get into marketing or brand management or events, kind of that realm, like,
mm,
is there anything that they could be doing to maybe developing? I mean, we talked about volunteering, developing skills that way, but are there any kind of other things that they could do to maybe keep up to date with latest trends or develop skills that employers are asking for? Maybe some of those harder skills as well. What do you kind of any advice around that?
yeah, I think, well, one really, really easy thing to do, especially if you're getting into fast-moving consumer goods or food and drink, is just to go visit like the big four supermarkets. So go to Tesco's, go to Sainsbury's, go to Asda, Morries, B&Q, Dunelm, Independence, and just scan the aisles, like look at products, take pictures, follow brands on Instagram, follow them on TikTok. Reach out to brands directly, ask questions, ask them if you can come and do some, a couple hours a week to create some content for them, do an online written piece, and just get a sense on what the industry is doing and how it's moving. I think that's particularly helpful if you're out of the city. So if you're not in Manchester, Birmingham, or London, you might not be physically around that change and that move. But if you could just go to the supermarket and see what's happening, that's a really helpful start. It's something that I did before I moved over to Tony's. It enabled me to just kind of map out like what the industry was doing and who are the next brands, who's the next unicorn, who's the next Oatly or Ben and Jerry's or Tony's now, and then start to just seed yourself out. And I think also even kind of sharing your insights on LinkedIn is really brilliant. So say you found like an awesome brand in Sainsbury's and you think they're great and you've dived into their strategy, or you've kind of pulled out some pieces of content, get a post up on LinkedIn and be like, amazing brand of the week or whatever it might be. And here's a great video that got me excited about like, what they're up to, like what sort of brands are you kind of keeping an eye on, and lead by example. I think I think sometimes we wait for stuff to arrive, but actually you sort of need to get up and think about how you can start to influence your career trajectory before you've even like landed that first job. So that's massive. There's lots of online stuff. So like social media news today is really brilliant. Try not to overread that because the social space changes so much. But just going on there every day, having a read, checking out a couple of articles. Maybe you can get a subscription for Campaign magazine as well, or just get like the print mag sent directly to your home or to your flat. That's really cool. You can scan through, get inspiration, see what, again, industry and trends and what's going on. And then I'd say when and if you get that first role, just being I guess owning your own development will probably save you a lot of hard work and hard conversations, especially if you join small brands that don't have like a development plan structure. You need to make sure that you're not only just working for that brand, you're actually getting a lot of personal development out of it. So maybe you can suggest a few courses that the brand could take you on, and you could say, oh, if I go on this, assistant brand management course for however much it is for the next
Mm.
2 weeks, I'm actually going to bring loads of value back into the brand. And often the most with small brands, you'll realize that they'll be very happy to send you on that course and be very grateful that you suggested it. And it shows that you've got like the aptitude to develop. So yeah, I think that's one thing I wasn't totally clear on when I got my first role, was what am I getting out of this beyond just working? How am I going to develop, and how am I going to set myself up for the future? And definitely should have suggested a few more opportunities for me to learn, go on a course, or go to an event, go to a trade show, like in London or something, and just
Mhm.
kind of be around it, or a networking evening, or a lunch and learn, or a breakfast session. There's so many different things you can do, but unless you're forward about it, unfortunately, like a lot of
Mm.
kind of senior leadership and or like small brands are probably not going to be like the first people to be like, oh, I want to send you on this. So yeah, I think that's a massive thing when you're in role. But before then, yeah, simply like I said, getting into the retail space, getting some magazines
Yeah.
sent home, going online, getting on social media, and just like living and breathing it a little bit will be really helpful.
Brilliant. I think that's some really good advice. And I think, like you said, a lot of that is just free. You can do, you can observe brands, follow them, interact with them, and just, yeah, to kind of start learning those themes and kind of like how are they promoting themselves and what sort of strategies are they using. And, it's just kind of like analyzing yourself, isn't it, really? Analyzing what they're doing. So I think that's really, really great advice.
Yeah, you're right. It's totally free. Like none of this has to be expensive. And again, especially LinkedIn, like that's going to be the ultimate tool. It's probably going to be around for most of our careers now. So as much work as you can put in before you land into your first role or employment, the more you're just going to benefit from that, because you never know. You might have created a bit of a persona for yourself before you've even like gone into that interview, and they kind of know who you are and they've seen your posts. So yeah, I can't stress enough how brilliant LinkedIn is. So the only other thing, because I've just done it, we went to Manchester University a few weeks ago and did a pop up, really simple, just a pop up. Talked about a TV advert, talked about our products. I had this awesome group of students come up to me, and they used that as an opportunity to get some pictures. They talked to us. They loaded up a LinkedIn post. They just it was just at their uni, and they didn't have to go anywhere. So I think like again, if you see people at uni who are showing up to do something like really cool, like don't be afraid to go up and talk to them. Like it's not all about, they're not always trying to sell products to you. They might be there for advice and a bit of feedback, and you can actually like get your own content and your kind of trends insight from just walking up to a kiosk or a pop-up at your university. So yeah, I just thought it was so cool. They just came straight up to us and they were just asking lots of questions about us, but then also just about them. What sort of stuff should I do whilst I'm here? And if you were going to hire me, like what would you be looking for? I just thought like double tick, amazing.
And then they post that on LinkedIn and they maybe tag you or tag the company, tag OceanSaver into that post, and it alerts the company to that post and that person, and you start to recognize names, don't you? If someone's interacting with you on LinkedIn, you recognize their name after a while if they're doing it regularly. So yeah, I think LinkedIn can be a really, really good tool. I also thought, talking about brands and that type of thing. So I know that some people are like brand ambassadors while they're a student, aren't they? So I know there are agencies that you can sign up to and become brand ambassadors for different companies. And that's actually like a part-time role while you're at uni on campus and you promote
Yep.
a particular brand. I guess something like that could be quite useful too, couldn't it?
Highly, highly, highly agree, Amanda. And I did that, so I didn't mention that. But yeah, especially now, like with TikTok in particular, and just how important that is for brands. We've all realized that tapping into the uni market and the potential of uni students is just amazing for brand growth and for brand building. So back in sort of my day, brand ambassadorship existed. It was really brilliant. You could get involved in lots of different brands, the classic ones, Red Bull at university, whatever it might be, earn a few bob and then also get lots of experience. Actually, now you're more valuable than you actually realize. And universities have become this hub for just like amazing social proof and social presence. And sorry, when I say social proof, I just mean that, if you can get videos and pictures of 15 people at university loving your brand and your products, then that just like does amazing things for social media. So, and for TikTok in particular. So yeah, getting involved with a brand and wanting to represent that brand on campus, off campus is just like a brilliant opportunity to earn some money whilst you're studying, and then also already step into that world of brand and marketing, brand marketing. And yeah, it's something that I did. It definitely helped me get a placement, it definitely helped me get that job after placement and after uni. And now I'm in a position where I'm looking to the me's of the time to like hire for these kinds of things. I'm almost looking for people that have done things like brand ambassadorship. What have you done to date that shows that you're interested in the brand space? How like active and on the ground were you at university? Oh, brilliant! This person was with whoever at uni, maybe even Tony's, and done loads of really cool stuff on campus. And here's a brilliant portfolio they've created around their brand ambassadorship. Yeah, I think it's just such a brilliant thing, and the amount of value you're bringing into brands you wouldn't even realize. Honestly, it's really, really, really beneficial to us.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I think it's just been so interesting hearing your story, and like the tips and the advice you've given to students through this podcast. I think it's just really, really interesting and so valuable. So yeah, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Brill, thanks so much, Amanda. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening today. Please remember to subscribe and follow so you can keep up to date with all new episodes.